Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel, everyone. This is one of those milestone moments. A day or an evening that will just resonate, echo into the future for millions of Canadians because, well, potentially. It depends on what happens with this baseball game tonight. The Blue Jays and the Dodgers. Game 6. If the Blue Jays win, they win the World Series. Tonight they're playing not just for Toronto. They really are playing for all of Canada. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. We're going to have an abbreviated Maverick News broadcast because of the baseball game, and I know a lot of people want to watch that, so we won't go too long. We will overlap with the broadcast into the playing time of the World Series, but we're not going to stay on for the duration tonight. And it is Halloween, so the kidlets are out there collecting their candies, and if not, doing their tricks. So it is October 31st, 2025, and Donald Trump is still a liar. I'll be right back. I don't know if that's news, but that too is reality.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So because it's Halloween, tonight we are also bringing you a special broadcast. We will move right into tonight's Maverick Midnight Matinee with a special presentation of the original 1938 Orson Welles War of the Worlds radio broadcast, the most famous radio drama of all time, bar none. And we have a good copy of it to share with you here this evening. And this will be a prelude to our own production of War of the Worlds. Ours will be a little different than what you will hear this evening, but the reason we're bringing it to you tonight is because back in 1938, the radio program made its debut. It was actually October 30th, 1938. It was a program that sort of like was a preview of Halloween. I guess maybe that's why they chose that date for that particular broadcast. But it was October 30th, 1938. But because our program normally runs on Friday nights, that takes us to tonight, the 31st, for the Maverick Midnight Matinee weekly feature. So we'll share it with you this evening. Almost 1 year, or almost like on the exact anniversary by missing it by 1 day, but still a Halloween thing. You know what I'm getting at. But before we get to that, we'll deal with tonight's top news stories. And I guess we would be we have no choice. We have to talk about the Blue Jays, right? Because this is, it's like Canada Cup in the 19 or the Canada versus Russia, the Canada Cup series, the hockey tournaments. I remember when I was a kid, Canada versus Russia. It was back then like the Cold War on ice. There are just certain moments in time that certain events where you always remember where you were when something happened. This is potentially one of those moments. If the Jays lose, then I think this will just fade into obscurity very quickly. But man, if they win tonight, it will be a marker, a mile marker in Canadian history, especially because of everything going on right now with the tariff wars, the trade war between Canada and the United States, what Donald Trump is doing to Canada. Uh, and even much of the United States for that matter. I have a, a video that I came across overnight from a gentleman who kind of sums it all up. So I'm not going to steal his thunder. I'm going to let him speak to this through his video because I just thought it really did provide a perspective that a lot of people I think share right now as we look ahead to what's going to happen here in Game 6 tonight. What a moment! I mean, nations, countries need these kinds of things from time to time, and the timing couldn't be better for Canada. Now, there is the danger, of course. I hear that if the Blue Jays win, Donald Trump is going to invade Canada. He's just gonna he's because he's already called off all the trade talks, and and a lot of people are saying that the Jays should just throw the game and let the Dodgers win to avoid a U.S. invasion by Donald Trump because you don't want to upset him, right? You can't run any ads or say anything that might be true. Next thing you know, he'll throw a temper tantrum and take over your country. But nope, Canadians are having none of it, at least real Canadians. Separatists maybe a different perspective on this, but tonight, millions and millions of Canadians crossing their fingers and hoping for the best in Game 6 of the World Series. And check this out in Toronto today. At least this is what I'm seeing online. Is this real? Is this AI? I don't know. York Street. I mean, I don't know it's real anymore. Holy smokes. Is that real? Is it real? Tell me in the chat, is that real? These people are all out there getting ready for the game. I'm going to go over to the Rumble chat tonight. Take a look in here. Anybody know, is that actually happening in Toronto with that crowd? I know that at Rogers Center, they do have a watch party going on there tonight, even though the game is out in LA. They have a big party happening. And we have images here. I guess this is the team arriving. Check this out. And because it's Halloween, some of these guys dressed up. I'm told this is real. but they're all disguised. So who the hell knows? I don't know. Here it is. It says the boys have arrived for Game 6, and this is on the Toronto Blue Jays X account.
I'm begging to get out of this costume.
So,
You gotta dress it up nice, you know?
all right, girlfriend, you ready?
That's a good fit. One of my best fits.
Well, it's kind of commercial too. Oh, well, there you go. Blue Jay eating a Dodgers jersey. Blue Jays one win away. And there's an image again. I don't know. I don't know. Is that real? I think that's an old one, isn't it? Isn't it terrible when you don't know what's real? It is. I think it's awful. I'm going back to the chat. Is it real? That's fake. Look at the black girl with white around her. She says, looks fake to me. Yeah, I don't know. It looks kind of AI to me. But yeah, they will have a lot of people at Rogers Center tonight. I don't think that's real. It doesn't have the right look to me. Too condensed and too much. You know what it is too? It's like, I think, too much red, too many red shirts, too uniform, too balanced in the color composition. I don't think it's real. Not buying it. That's awful. Who was posting that? That fake. Mark Nixon. Mark Nixon. I don't know. See, there it is. That's, you know why it's fake? Because it was from a different time. It was from June 17th, 2019. The Raptors had their championship parade. That's what that was. That makes more sense. And see, this guy lied. He lied. Because the video came. Oh, here, I'll bring it back up over here. This video, I'll show you. So Mark Nixon says, Blue Jays already filling the streets in Toronto. Check out the guy on top of the light post. So he's telling you this is real. Then it's from NBA Canada. So I clicked on here to go to the original source. Simple as that. The streets of Toronto will never be the same. On this day, June 17th, 2019, the Raptors had their NBA championship parade. Different event, different day from 2019. Well, why do you think he would do that? He lied. He lied. I'll remember that. I will remember what Mark Nixon did on October 31st, 2025. Yeah, the crowds tonight, Proline player says, won't be fake. Yeah. And Cindy says, lots have been calling him out, especially lately. Who, Mark Nixon? I don't really pay much attention to him. The guy people have been catching and posting lots of wrong. Yeah. I stopped paying attention to him a while ago just because it seemed like things he had been posting had been really exaggerating or whatever. So I don't like it. I don't like that. That's me. I don't like it. But you know that. You know I find that really, really offensive. What else do we have going on tonight? Well, you know, I'm going to run the video of the guy. I was thinking of saving it till the end, but no, I won't, because we're going to segue into the War of the Worlds thing very soon. I don't want to go too late tonight because I know you guys maybe want to watch the baseball game. So I will share this video of this guy. Hey, guy, where are you, guy? I got to find you. No, I don't want that. I want the guy. I'll find him here. Hang on. I think it's this one. Is it? Here it is. I got the guy. Oh, crap. I clicked away from him. Okay. Too quick on the draw with my clicker. I don't know. This one really just kind of, I watched this overnight and I just stumbled on it. But man, he's very passionate. And I think a lot of people will say, yeah, you know, he's right on the money. Let's bring him up. I don't know his name. What is this guy's name? Oh, That's Rich is the name of this account. It's over on TikTok. See if I can. Oh, I hate TikTok. The way they start these stupid videos. Okay, let's bring it up. Get the audio fired up here, Rick. There we go. Bring it all the way up. Here we go. Rock and roll. He hits this one out of the park.
Of baseball. It's not just because I woke up this morning with tears in my eyes because of baseball. It's not just because I was up until well after midnight watching last night's 18-inning, almost 7-hour-long Game 3 of the World Series. And it's not just because I've loved baseball my entire life, especially since 3 Minnesota Twins players visited me in the hospital when I was there for 3 weeks when I was 7. That's part of it, though. It's because I had realized exactly what I'd witnessed last night. For those of you who might say that baseball's not political, brace yourselves, because everything is political. And sometimes the things you most think are not political end up being the most political of all. It happened last night in the game between Los Angeles, a city attacked, insulted, and invaded by Trump's government all summer long. A city Trump spent $150 million taxpayer dollars to invade, one of the most diverse cities in the world, and a Los Angeles Dodgers baseball team with a fan base that is about 50% Hispanic, and the Toronto Blue Jays, a Canadian team representing a country Trump is punishing more than any other country in the world with his economic policy, a team representing Ontario, the province represented by Doug Ford, the premier of Ontario, who just spent tens of millions of dollars trolling Trump with an anti-isolationist Ronald Reagan ad. It got under Trump's thin skin so deeply he took his ball and went home. This game felt like a time capsule, an almost 7-hour-long reminder of what this world is like when the United States is true to itself. Memory from an alternate universe untainted by the hate and destruction from the Trump regime. This game was magic. Shohei Ohtani, the greatest baseball player who ever lived, greater than Babe Ruth, and it's not close. A Japanese immigrant living in California who doesn't speak English hit 2 home runs and 2 doubles in his first 4 at-bats, which on its own tied a record for extra base hits in a single postseason game. He was then walked in his next 5 at-bats because the Blue Jays pitchers were that scared of him. Those 5 walks also set a record, and it also meant that he got on base 9 out of 9 at-bats, setting another World Series and postseason record. In fact, the last time any player in any Major League Baseball game got on base 9 times in the same game was 1942. Shohei also hit multiple home runs in this game, for the 3rd time this postseason alone, setting another Major League Baseball record. This game included 19 pitchers from both teams. That's a record. In fact, both teams ran out of pitchers, and they were both only 1 inning away from having to use position players like second basemen or left fielders to pitch, or having to do the unthinkable and using a starter from a future game to pitch now, which would have thrown out their arm. One of the heroes in this game from the Blue Jays is a guy named Alejandro Kirk, a Mexican immigrant born in Tijuana. Kirk is the slowest runner in all of Major League Baseball, but he's also one of the best hitters and catchers, and it was his 3-run home run earlier in the game that allowed them to go into extra innings. Kirk was signed to the Blue Jays in 2016 from the Mexican League for $7,500. After spending his entire career with the Blue Jays, earned his way to a $58 million contract just earlier this year. In this game, we also saw the greatest relief pitcher duel in World Series history, with Eric Lauer of the Blue Jays and Will Klein of the Dodgers each throwing more than twice as many pitches as they'd ever pitched in a single game before, and 2 guys who gave up a combined 0 runs in those 4 innings pitched. Right right as the game got to its record-tying 18th inning, 3 a.m. Toronto time, and almost midnight in Los Angeles. As the Dodgers had completely run out of pitchers, the Dodgers were preparing for the unthinkable to put in Yoshi Yamamoto, another Japanese immigrant who also doesn't speak English, a guy who only earlier this week pitched a complete 9-inning game, throwing over 100 pitches and winning for the Dodgers. They were preparing to let Yoshi pitch as a reliever because Yoshi offered himself up so that they could save Shohei Ohtani's arm for Game 4. Just as they were about to have to cross this bridge, the game was going to turn into some sort of Frankenstein thing. Freddie Freeman, a 6'5" farm boy looking dude with chiclet white teeth, a 36-year-old veteran who spent 12 seasons with the Atlanta Braves before spending the next 4 seasons with the Dodgers, and a guy who last year hit the first walk-off grand slam in World Series history, steps up in the bottom of the 18th inning. His 9th at bat, he hits a foul. He takes 3 balls. Then he watches a strike go by, leaving him with a full count, 3 balls, 2 strikes. And then on the next pitch, a no-doubter 406-foot home run to center field. A guy named Free Man, winning the game for a city of angels and immigrants, while at the same time becoming the only Major League Baseball player in history to win 2 different World Series games with walk-off home runs. This single World Series game, with its combined 19 pitchers and 25 batters, representing 21 different states, and I shit you not, 17 of the players came from blue states and 16 from red states, plus players from Puerto Rico, Cuba, Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, Canada, Japan, and Mexico, in a city where 50% of the population is Hispanic. This game is what happens when people let barriers go, to find pure joy through a game that is rightly and unironically considered the great American pastime. This is why I woke up in tears. I remembered why I love baseball, and baseball helped me remember what it should feel like to be an American.
Wow. I'll be right back.
Maverick News isn't just a news outlet, it's a community of truth seekers. Your donation at freedomreporters.com fuels our mission to report the stories that mainstream media won't touch. Thank you, Maverick family.
So the big story today is, did Mark Carney apologize to Donald Trump for Doug Ford's anti-tariff ad? I don't know. Carney's been kind of mum on this, but Trump is like, oh yeah, he apologized. Yeah, this is so stupid. It's just, he apologized. He's a nice guy. He apologized. Oh, he's so petty. Like, oh my God. Here he is on Air Force One. And the pro 51st state mob online is seizing the moment, of course, posting all about this.
What did you talk about with Prime Minister Carney? Are you and Canada going to resume negotiations?
No, but I have a very good relationship. I like him a lot. But you know what they did was wrong. He was very nice. He apologized for what they did with the commercial. Because it was a false commercial. You know, it was the exact opposite. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs. And they tried to make it look the other way. And he did apologize, and I appreciated it. We had a great dinner, you know, with other countries, as you know. And I think we have a very good relationship personally. I think that what they did was wrong, but he apologized.
What did you talk about with Prime Minister?
Did he? If he did, I don't even care. Whatever it takes to get the deal done, man. That's Carney's job. If he has to give Donald Trump a big smooch right on the lips, do it. Just do it. Get it over with. That's your job, man. Whatever. Here's Kevin Haskett, one of the people in the Trump admin, saying that the president's top economic advisors say the Canadian negotiating team are rude, not serious at all. What a, this is this like high school? Like really? I can't think of, have we ever seen international trade negotiations conducted like this? They're hurting my feelings.
If Canada moves away from the United States, more towards China in terms of a trading relationship, is that good for the United States?
What is good for the United States is getting Canada to start to adhere to their previous agreements and to follow the rule of law and to stop punishing American companies the way they've been. The negotiations with China have been very, very frustrating for President Trump. As an example, they have a huge digital service tax on companies that stream things like Netflix, that if anybody who makes content that you watch when you go home at the end of the day and you flip around to watch a show, that they've got to make a quota in Canada of how many Canadian actors they have. That they've got stuff like that littered throughout the economy, and it's gotten worse and worse under these liberal governments. And so President Trump won't stand for it. He's tried to negotiate with the Canadians to get better deals for Americans, and they've been, frankly, rude and dismissive. And this is how it gets to where we are. But the bottom line is we had an enormous victory in China. That there's a great, great deal for Americans. The American farmers are going to be selling their soybeans. And all of that happened while the Chinese accepted a tariff that was much larger than they started with in January. And so it's a big win for the American people and for the president.
The president calling the meeting with Xi a 12 out of 10. One of the critical parts about it. Yeah, exactly. Well played.
If you want to go work in the United States in any business, including, say, a movie, you want to get a role in a movie, do you need a green card? Do you need a work visa? Yes. Is it therefore wrong for Canada to say if a movie is being made in Canada, or if a television program is being made in Canada for Canadian channels, that maybe you would want Canadians working in those jobs? Is that unreasonable? I know what that's all about because I have, as an independent producer, I've had to jump through the hoops to get what they call a C number for my program. So you have to fill out paper. It's a pain in the neck. It absolutely is. And I can say I didn't like it. I don't like it. And maybe I'm terribly guilty of doing an end run around these regulations because I got frustrated dealing with the Canadian broadcasters and I went to the States. And I made deals over there to run my Canadian produced program on US stations and beam it back into Canada because the signal crosses the border. Canada provides access to the Canadian market for all kinds of American programming. And so I just did an end run around the whole, requirement to get a C number by just getting a contract to broadcast from the US on border stations, super stations, to get it back into Canada. I don't know. It's just, I listen to this rhetoric and it just, it doesn't actually make sense. It seems like it makes sense because like Canada's very unreasonable. They're very difficult to deal with. And if they would just follow the rule of law on trade, actually, see, Trump is violating the law and a lot of trade agreements that we have with these tariffs. He's the one who's violating the agreements, not honoring them. I think there are at least 20 that he is in violation of because of the tariffs. We'll see what happens with the Supreme Court case. I don't know. He's a liar. He's just and now he has people all around him lying about things. What was the related thing that I had to that tonight? I thought there was something else. Oh yeah, the Chinese ambassador. Yeah, he was over on CTV. That's what it was. That's what just came to mind. Because he was just asked if Canada doing more trade with China would actually be good for the United States. Of course not. I'm not even sure if Trump will allow it. But over on CTV today, the Chinese ambassador seems to be getting along better with Canada than Mr. Hoekstra, the U.S. ambassador to Canada. It says here, after Prime Minister Mark Carney and Chinese President Xi Jinping met face-to-face in South Korea, China's ambassador to Canada is suggesting that the two countries triple trade with one another if the market allows. He says, I think it depends on the market, on the products. Is there enough competitiveness or not? Ambassador Wang Di said in an interview with CTV's Power Play Friday when asked by host Michael Couture if he wants to see an increase in Canadian imports to China. And he says, what I'm looking forward to is not only double our trade. If both sides have enough compatibilities and have enough competitive products, why not make this trade triple than what we already have now? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What will happen if Canada does triple the trade with China? What will Donald Trump think of that? Well, again, we'll wait and see what happens with this Supreme Court case and their ruling on whether his tariffs are even constitutional within the United States. So we'll see how compliant Mr. Trump is with even U.S. law, let alone international law. And we're not even talking about his attacks on alleged narco-terror boats off the coast of Venezuela, boats that only have a range of about 100 kilometers or 100 miles. Can't make it to the United States, but they just blow them up anyway. Anyway, speaking of Supreme Court, on the Canadian side, the Canadian Supreme Court looks like they will make a decision or release their decision, let the public know what their decision is on whether that ostrich farm out in Edgewood, British Columbia, Universal Ostrich Farm, whether their appeal to stop the cull of their ostriches, if that appeal will be heard at the Supreme Court level. November 6th, next Thursday. We were sort of thinking that we would get a decision maybe as early as yesterday, but didn't happen. These things tend to come out on Thursdays. It looks like, based on that document I just showed you, that it will be the 6th. So brace yourselves. The decision is coming. Okay, back to the United States. NASA and Lockheed have just tested a supersonic jet that does not create the kind of sonic boom that supersonic jets create when they break the sound barrier. This is a new supersonic jet designed to make only a gentle thump instead of that really jarring sonic boom. And that's why supersonic travel over land has been banned actually since the 1940s. That's one of the things that affected the Concorde jetliner. Here I've got some video of the test flight, this generated by Associated Press. Quite an impressive looking machine. And big. You know what that thing reminds me of? Reminds me a lot of an F-104 Starfighter. What a cool looking jet that is. Now, see, that's something Roger Ramjet would definitely fly. You remember the Roger Ramjet cartoons? Roger Ramjet, he's our hero, hero of our nation. He would look good in an F-104 Starfighter, too. You know, you can buy those things. Yes, you can. I'm going to show you. Who wants to buy a fighter jet? Mighty F-104 Starfighter for sale by Platinum Fighter Sales. Vintage Aviation News. So you buy one of these things, and then you go on the air show circuit. Oops, bring it back up. Another iconic jet was recently listed by Platinum Fighter Sales, the former Canadian Armed Forces and Starfighter Aerospace CF-104 Starfighter. That's back in February 23rd of this year. Starfighters. So this is iconic. The iconic CF-104D Starfighter. It's got a serial number. A former Starfighter's aerospace aircraft and a familiar sight on the airshow circuit for over 2 decades is now for sale. The legendary jet is listed by Platinum Fighter Sales after previously being advertised on Barnstormers for $4,250,000. You got an extra $4.2 million laying around? Maybe they'll make you a deal. Originally delivered to the Canadian Armed Forces May 1st, 1962, this 2-seat Starfighter served with the test squadron at Cold Lake. In 1973, it was transferred to the Norwegian Air Force, where it operated under serial 4632 until its retirement in 1982. After years in storage, Northern Light Aircraft Corporation purchased the aircraft in 1988 and transported it to the U.S., where it was restored and registered as N104NL. It's a Starfighter, okay? I don't need the serial numbers for this purpose. It's just, I thought these things were the coolest looking planes, but I understand they were very difficult to fly. As a kid, I used to build model airplanes, and I had an F-104 Starfighter hanging from the ceiling from a lamp in my bedroom. Yeah, they were a little unstable, but super fast. Canada had some. And there were some guys died flying those things because they were kind of unstable. What else do we have for you this evening before we get into War of the Worlds? Oh, yes, this, I needed to tell you about this. So this is the FBI says, Kash Patel says they have stopped a potential terrorist attack not far from where I sit tonight. Down in Detroit, just outside Detroit. Live updates. FBI stops potential terrorist attack, raids homes in Dearborn, facility in Inkster. Patel says the suspects were allegedly plotting a violent attack over Halloween weekend. The spokesperson for the FBI Detroit office said agents in Michigan were in Dearborn and Inkster conducting law enforcement activities Friday morning. We have this report from WXYZ, Channel 7, ABC, Detroit. Here we go.
7 News Detroit starts with breaking news.
And we begin tonight with at least 2 people arrested in a potential terror plot thwarted by the FBI right here in Metro Detroit. Welcome to 7 News Detroit at 5 on this Halloween day. I'm Glenda Lewis. We appreciate you joining us. So here's what we know right now. ABC News is reporting that at least 2 people have been arrested and 3 others have been taken in for questioning. We're told their ages range from 16 to 20 years old. We've been on this story all morning as the FBI carried out a number of raids in both Dearborn and Inkster. Our crews were on the scene on 3 raids at homes on Horger and Middle Point Streets in Dearborn and at a youth hall facility in Inkster. So we have Team 7 coverage for you tonight. Darren Cunningham standing by, but we're going to begin with 7 News Detroit reporter Tiara Braddock in Dearborn with the latest on this investigation. Tiara.
Hi, Glenda. Well, things have definitely calmed down here on Middle Point Street where I am right now. The FBI and other law enforcement agencies have left the scene, but residents are still reeling from what they saw. They say they can't believe something like this happened in their neighborhood.
As long as I've lived here, this has been a very peaceful, quiet, nobody bothers you.
Barbara Sala says she thought someone was playing a prank on her when she heard the FBI was raiding 2 homes in Dearborn, one on Horger Street and another on Middle Point Street in Dearborn, which is a half a block away from her home.
When I heard what it was about, I was just praying that they were wrong.
The news broke early Friday morning when FBI Director Kash Patel tweeted that the agency arrested multiple subjects in Michigan who were allegedly plotting a violent attack over Halloween weekend.
Everyone's like such a tight, close-knit group. Everybody knows everybody, so when something like this happens, you don't expect it.
Holly Kemp lives down the street from one of the homes searched by federal agents. She says there were police in the neighborhood at around 4:30 in the morning.
My husband jumped out of bed because he heard a bang sound, and then all of a sudden he heard bang, 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 so he thought it was shotgun, a gun went off. And then so he looked out the window and he saw a bunch of cop lights.
According to ABC News, sources tell them that the suspects' ages range from 16 to 20, and the FBI took action after undercover operatives monitored online communications from a number of suspects in a group chat. Sources also told ABC News that the suspects engaged in firearms training and mentioned Pumpkin Day, which they believe was a reference to Halloween.
I'm glad they stopped whatever it was they might have done.
Now, we know there are still so many unanswered questions when it comes to this situation, and we're working to get those details, and as soon as we have them, we'll make sure to update you. But in the meantime, the FBI and Dearborn police say there is no active threat to the community. Live in Dearborn, Tiara Braddock, 7 News Detroit.
All right, Tiara, thank you. Our Team 7 coverage continues now with 7 News Detroit reporter Darren Cunningham. He's live on the other scene of the raid in Dearborn, this one on Horger Street, not far from Fordson High School. And Darren, what can you tell us from there?
Yes, Glenda, a neighbor tells me 6 or 7 people live in the home here behind me on Horger Street. Well, the FBI raided it, spending about 9 hours going in and out of the home with boxes. And I spoke with a neighbor who says he's familiar with the family and that he witnessed it all go down this morning.
Early this morning around 5 a.m., we heard loud bangs, and we seen the FBI agents telling our neighbors to come out of the house.
Lareep Irfin says it was an alarming way to start the day as law enforcement swarmed his neighbor's home 2 doors down.
We just seen them being told, get out of the house, hands behind your back, handcuffs, and then just being under an investigation.
An investigation into a possible terror plot, according to FBI Director Kash Patel. He posted about it on X. Though details are scarce, he says the alleged attack could have been carried out Halloween weekend. Irfin says it's a shocking revelation as he and his family prepare to celebrate the holiday where so many children are out trick-or-treating.
A little concerning, if something, God forbid, were to happen. But, as far as the FBI doing their part, I feel a little bit better now. We've never had a problem like that in this neighborhood. So,
had you met or interacted with the folks at the house there?
Oh, yeah. So we're really good neighbors with them. Nothing of that nature, where we could speculate like, hey, this person's kind of off. But we just hope and pray that everything works out for them.
Irfin says 4 or 5 brothers, teenagers, and young adults live at the home with their parents. A woman left the house not long before the FBI cleared the scene around 2:30. That's when I knocked on the door to see what anyone at the house could share about the investigation, but no one came to the door. Not long after, men who identified themselves as the family's attorneys arrived and then left, saying they wouldn't be providing comment about any allegations at this time. Inkster's police chief confirms the FBI executed a search warrant at a storage facility. I stopped by the U-Haul over on Michigan Avenue. I was directed to their corporate office. I spoke with U-Haul Media Relations. They did confirm that their location in Inkster on Michigan Avenue was searched. However, they had nothing to share at this point. They say they are cooperating with the investigation, and as of right now, it's unclear or unknown whether they recovered anything from that storage facility of any significance at this time. Live in Dearborn, Darren Cunningham, 7 News Detroit.
All right, Darren, thank you. Also this morning, 7 News Detroit took the opportunity to ask Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel if she had been briefed on the investigation, and here's what she told us.
We've been in consultation with the FBI in regard to this matter, and while I can't speak publicly to the details of it, I can just say that I'm very, very grateful for the FBI's work in protecting the community and keeping people safe. And I'm sure we'll learn more about the details publicly later, but I'm thankful for their good work.
Governor Gretchen Whitmer weighing in via social media, writing, quote, "This morning I was briefed by Director Patel on the thwarted potential terrorist attack in our state. As details continue to develop, I am grateful for the swift action of the FBI and Michigan State Police, protecting Michiganders. Her office not releasing any more details at this hour." Our coverage of this alleged plot will continue throughout the night. You can count on 7 News Detroit to share all information, both on air and online, WXYZ.com.
Okay, so that report coming from WXYZ, Channel 7, Detroit. That gets us to, we're almost to the top of the hour. And I shouldn't tell you this because you might click away, but the baseball game will be starting shortly. That being said, we are going to segue into Maverick Midnight Matinee in just a moment. So stay with me. We'll be right back. And we'll wrap up the news portion of the program and move into the special broadcast of War of the Worlds.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, are you ready? It's Halloween, and it's time to shift gears. This ends the news portion, and we're going to stay on YouTube tonight because I think we're safe running this original broadcast from 1938. The most famous radio drama of all time, War of the Worlds. Here we go. Time for Maverick Midnight Matinee. All right, we are back. Good evening, night owls. It's not even that late this week. So I won't say insomniacs, not yet, but hey, maybe you'll get to bed. No, you won't, because you're going to be watching the baseball game. We're going back in time right now, though, to a night that quite literally made history. October 30th, 1938. So we're just missing the anniversary by a day, but it's okay. It was still a Halloween that was one to remember in 1938 because of what transpired on the radio, a new medium, a new technology that had emerged at the time, much in the same way that technology is reshaping, reimagining our very imaginations today through the internet and artificial intelligence. It was the eve of Halloween when millions of Americans tuned in to hear what they thought was just another ordinary radio drama. But what they got was something far more shocking. Orson Welles and his Mercury Theater on the air presented a broadcast of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, an updated version of it to make it sound like it was current, not from the era in which the work was originally created by H.G. Wells, a fictional Martian invasion told on the air as if it were a series of real-time news bulletins. The result, chaos, panic. People fled their homes. They jammed highways, flooded police stations with phone calls. It was, without question, one of the most powerful examples in history of how media could shape perception and blur the line between truth and illusion. Now, was the response from the public as dramatic and as scary as we are told? Not quite. A lot of it was exaggerated in media, especially by newspapers of the time, who saw radio as a huge threat to their business model because it was reaching such a massive audience, and it was new technology at the time. So it was a disruptive technology. Now, what makes this night even more fascinating is that it foreshadowed our modern world in ways that Wells himself probably could not have even imagined. The broadcast acted like an early form of, I would say, artificial intelligence in a way. It was a scripted voice of authority simulating live information, manipulating emotions, and convincing people to believe what they heard was real. And what did we just experience right here on the program? Earlier tonight, we showed you a post on Twitter or X from someone who used an old image, repurposed it, saying that it was current from today when it wasn't at all. It was a lie, and yet a lot of people would believe it. And I was questioning it. I could have been duped. I don't like that because I don't like sharing a lie, even if it's seen as a white lie or a harmless lie. In this day and age, I think it's damaging to credibility, damaging to our ability to trust in any form of media and even trust ourselves. There I was tonight saying, is this even real? I'm not sure. I don't know if I can trust my lying eyes. Anyway, this, back in 1938, this new medium, it showed how technology, the medium itself, could be used to manipulate people's minds, I guess, and even create an artificial reality in people's minds. Because radio drama, and I learned a lot about radio drama when I went to journalism school, and I learned a lot about radio production in those days. I immersed myself in learning how to edit audio, and we produced, when I was in college, radio dramas. We called it radio theater of the mind, because it was actually the absence of the element of visuals that gave you the opportunity to embed ideas, thoughts, and even imagery into someone's brain. Well, in the case of War of the Worlds, not only were they able to create a reality in people's minds, some people actually did believe it. And that was actually dangerous at the time. It resulted in reviews of what Orson Welles and his radio drama company had, his colleagues had done. Was it proper? Should they have done it at all? Should they have used things that sounded like real news bulletins on CBS at the time, Columbia Broadcasting Studios? It was a different time, and yet the more things change, the more things seem to stay the same. Here we go again with disruptive technology manipulating people's minds, either intentionally or unintentionally. Unintended consequences of the technology. Where are we all going with this? I don't know, but if you look back at 1938, this gave us a glimpse of things to come. So tonight, as we relive this legendary moment in broadcasting, imagine sitting in a dark room back in 1938, the radio glowing softly, and a voice calmly announcing that something has landed in New Jersey. Then the news bulletins start to sound just a little too real. You might just feel a chill of recognition because the tools may have changed, but the power of persuasion remains the same. So dim the lights, settle in, get your popcorn. You can even close your eyes if you want, or you can even, I don't recommend it, watching the Blue Jays game at the same time as you're listening to this. That would be a little bit surreal, but up to you. And now dim the lights, settle in, get your popcorn, add your beverage. Let's tune in and dial back the hands of time to 1938 and War of the Worlds.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the air in The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Ladies and gentlemen, the director of the Mercury Theater and star of these broadcasts, Orson Welles.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's, and yet as mortal as his own. We know now that as human beings busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space. Yet across an immense ethereal gulf, minds that are to our minds as ours are to the beasts in the jungle, intellects, vast, cool, and unsympathetic, regarded this earth with envious eyes and slowly and surely drew their plans against us. In the 39th year of the 20th century came the Great Disillusionment. It was near the end of October. Business was better. The war scare was over. More men were back at work. Sales were picking up. On this particular evening, October 30th, the Crosley service estimated that 32 million people were listening in on radios.
For the next 24 hours, not much change in temperature. A slight atmospheric disturbance of undetermined origin is reported over Nova Scotia, causing a low-pressure area to move down rather rapidly over the northeastern states, bringing a forecast of rain accompanied by winds of light gale force. Maximum temperature 66, minimum 48. This weather report comes to you from the Government Weather Bureau. We take you now to the Meridian Room in the Hotel Park Plaza in downtown New York, where you will be entertained by the music of Raymond Raquello and his orchestra.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. From the Meridian Room in the Park Plaza Hotel in New York City, we bring you the music of Raymond Raquello and his orchestra. With a touch of the Spanish, Raymond Raquello leads off with La Comparsita.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. At 20 minutes before 8 Central Time, Professor Farrell of the Mount Jennings Observatory, Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The spectroscope indicates the gas to be hydrogen and moving toward the Earth with enormous velocity. Professor Pearson of the observatory at Princeton confirms Farrell's observation and describes the phenomenon as, quote, like a jet of blue flame shot from a gun, unquote. We now return you to the music of Ramon Raquello, playing for you in the Meridian Room of the Park Plaza Hotel, situated in downtown New York.
And now a tune that never loses favor, the ever-popular Stardust, Raymond Raquello and his orchestra.
Ladies and gentlemen, following on the news given in our bulletin a moment ago, the Government Meteorological Bureau has requested the large observatories of the country to keep an astronomical watch on any further disturbances occurring on the planet Mars. Due to the unusual nature of this occurrence, we have arranged an interview with a noted astronomer, Professor Pearson, who will give us his views on this event. In a few moments, we will take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, New Jersey. We return you until then to the music of Ramon Raquello and his orchestra. We are ready now to take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, where Carl Phillips, our commentator, will interview Professor Richard Pearson, famous astronomer. We take you now to Princeton, New Jersey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carl Phillips speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton. I'm standing in a large semicircular room, pitch black except for an oblong split in the ceiling. Through this opening, I can see a sprinkling of stars that cast a kind of frosty glow over the intricate mechanism of the huge telescope. The ticking sound you hear is the vibration of the clockwork. Professor Pearson stands directly above me on a small platform, peering through the giant lens. I'll ask you to be patient, ladies and gentlemen, during any delay that may arouse during our interview. Besides the ceaseless watch of the heavens, Professor Pearson may be interrupted by telephone or other communications. During this period, he is in constant touch with the astronomical centers of the world. Professor, may I begin our questions?
Any time, Mr. Phillips.
Professor, would you please tell our radio audience exactly what you see as you observe the planet Mars through your telescope?
Nothing unusual at the moment, Mr. Phillips. A red disk swimming in a blue sea. Transverse stripes across the disk. Quite distinct now because Mars happens to be at the point nearest the Earth, in opposition, as we call it.
In your opinion, what do these transverse stripes signify, Professor Pearson?
Not canals, I can assure you, Mr. Phillips. Although that's the popular conjecture of those who imagine Mars to be inhabited. From a scientific viewpoint, the stripes are merely the result of atmospheric conditions peculiar to the planet.
Then you're quite convinced, as a scientist, that living intelligence as we know it does not exist on Mars?
I'd say the chances against it are 1,000 to 1.
And yet, How do you account for these gas eruptions occurring on the surface of the planet at regular intervals?
Phillips, I cannot account for it.
By the way, Professor, for the benefit of our listeners, how far is Mars from the Earth?
Approximately 40 million miles.
Well, that seems a safe enough distance. Just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Someone has just handed Professor Pearson a message. While he reads it, let me remind you that we are speaking to you from the observatory in Princeton, New Jersey, where we are interviewing the world-famous astronomer, Professor Pearson. One moment, please. Professor Pearson has passed me a message which he has just received. Professor, may I read the message to the listening audience?
Certainly, Mr. Phillips.
Ladies and gentlemen, I shall read you a wire addressed to Professor Pearson from Dr. Gray of the Natural History Museum, New York. Quote, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Seismograph registered shock of almost earthquake intensity occurring within a radius of 20 miles of Princeton. Please investigate. Signed, Lloyd Gray, Chief of Astronomical Division. Unquote. Professor Pearson, could this occurrence possibly have something to do with the disturbances observed on the planet Mars?
Hardly, Mr. Phillips. This is probably a meteorite of unusual size, and its arrival at this particular time is merely a coincidence. However, we shall conduct a search as soon as daylight permits.
Thank you, Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 10 minutes, we've been speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton, bringing you a special interview with Professor Pearson, noted astronomer. This is Carl Phillips speaking. We are returning you now to our New York studio.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. Toronto, Canada. Professor Morse of Macmillan University reports observing a total of 3 explosions on the planet Mars between the hours of 7:45 p.m. and 9:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This confirms earlier reports received from American observatories. Now, nearer home, comes a special bulletin from Trenton, New Jersey. It is reported that at 8:50 p.m., a huge flaming object, believed to be a meteorite, fell on a farm in the neighborhood of Grover's Mill, New Jersey, 22 miles from Trenton. The flash in the sky was visible within a radius of several hundred miles, and the noise of the impact was heard as far north as Elizabeth. We have dispatched a special mobile unit to the scene, and will have our commentator, Carl Phillips, give you a word picture of the scene as soon as he can reach there from Princeton. In the meantime, we take you to the Hotel Martinet in Brooklyn, where Bobby Millett and his orchestra are offering a program of dance music. We take you now to Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Carl Phillips again, out at the Wilmot Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Professor Pearson and myself made the 11 miles from Princeton in 10 minutes. Well, I hardly know where to begin. To paint for you a word picture of the strange scene before my eyes, like something out of a modern Arabian Nights. Well, I just got here. I haven't had a chance to look around yet. I guess that's it. Yes, I guess that's the thing directly in front of me, half buried in a vast pit. Must have struck with terrific force. The ground is covered with splinters of a tree. It must have struck on its way down. But I can see the object itself doesn't look very much like a meteor. At least not the meteors I've seen. It looks more like a huge cylinder. Has a diameter of, what would you say, Professor Pearson?
What's that?
What would you say, what's the diameter of this?
About 30 yards.
About 30 yards. The metal on the sheath is, well, I've never seen anything like it. The color is sort of yellowish white. The curious spectators now are pressing close to the object in spite of the efforts of the police to keep them back. They're getting in front of my line of vision. Would you mind standing one side, please? While the police are pushing the crowd back. Here's Mr. Wilmot, owner of the farm here. He may have some interesting facts to add. Mr. Wilmot, would you please tell the radio audience as much as you remember of this rather unusual visitor that dropped in your backyard? A step closer, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Wilmot.
Well, I was listening to the radio.
Closer and louder, please.
Pardon me?
Louder, please, closer.
Yes. I was listening to the radio and kind of drowsing. That professor fellow was talking about Mars, so I was half chosen and half...
Yes, Mr. Wilmot, and then what happened?
Well, as I was saying, I was listening to the radio, kind of halfway.
Yes, Mr. Wilmot, and then you saw something.
Well, not first off. I heard something.
And what did you hear?
A hissing sound like this. Kind of like a 4th of July rocket.
Yes, then what?
I turned my head out the window and would have sworn I was asleep and dreaming.
Yes?
I seen a kind of greenish streak and then zingo. Something smacked the ground, knocked me clear out of my chair.
Well, were you frightened, Mr. Wilmot?
Well, I ain't quite sure. I reckon I was kind of riled.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wilmot. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you want me to tell
No, that's quite all right. That's plenty. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard Mr. Wilmot, owner of the farm where this thing has fallen. I wish I could convey the atmosphere, the background of this fantastic scene. Hundreds of cars are parked in the field in back of us, and the police are trying to rope off the roadway leading into the farm, but it's no use. They're breaking right through. The car's headlights throw an enormous spotlight on the pit where the object's half buried. Now, some of the more daring souls now are venturing near the edge. Their silhouettes stand out against the metal sheen. One man wants to touch the thing. He's having an argument with the policeman. Now, the policeman wins. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's something I haven't mentioned in all this excitement, but it's becoming more distinct. Perhaps you've caught it already on your radio. Listen, please. Do you hear it? It's a curious humming sound that seems to come from inside the object. I'll move the microphone nearer. Here. Now, we're not more than 25 feet away. Can you hear it now? Professor Pearson.
Yes, Mr. Brooks.
Can you tell us the meaning of that scraping noise inside the thing?
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial. Not found on this Earth. Friction with the Earth's atmosphere usually tears holes in a meteorite. This thing is smooth, and you can see its cylindrical
just a minute.
shape.
Something's happening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is terrific. This end of the thing is beginning to flake off. The top is beginning to rotate like a screw, and the thing must be hollow.
He's moving! Keep back there! Keep back there! Keep those men back! Keep back there! Keep those idiots back! Keep off! The top's loose! Look out there! Stand back!
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever witnessed. Wait a minute. Someone's crawling out or something. I can see peering out of that black hole two luminous discs. The eyes, it might be a face, might be almost good heavens, something wriggling out of the shadow like a gray snake. Now it's another one, and another one, and another one. They look like tentacles to me. Oh, yeah, I can see the thing's body. Now it's large as a bear. It glistens like wet leather, but that face, ladies and gentlemen, it's indescribable. I can hardly force myself to keep looking at it. It's so awful. The eyes are black, and they gleam like a serpent. The mouth is a kind of V-shape with saliva dripping from its rimless lips that seem to quiver and pulsate, and the monster or whatever it is can hardly move. It seems weighed down by possibly gravity or something. The thing's rising up now, and the crowd falls back. There seems plenty. The most extraordinary experience, ladies and gentlemen. I can't find words. Well, I'll pull this microphone with me as I talk. I'll have to stop the description until I can take a new position. Hold on, will you, please? I'll be right back in a minute.
We are bringing you an eyewitness account of what's happening on the Wilmuth Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. We now return you to Carl Phillips at Grover's Mill.
Ladies and gentlemen, am I on? Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that adjoins Mr. Wilmot's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk and as long as I can see. More state police have arrived. They're drawing up a cordon in front of the pit. About 30 of them. No need to push the crowd back now. They're willing to keep their distance. The captain conferring with someone. Can't quite see who. Ah, yes, I believe it's Professor Pearson. Yes, it is. Now they've parted, and the professor moves around one side, studying the object, while the captain and two policemen advance with something in their hands. I can see it now. It's a white handkerchief tied to a pole. Flag of truce. If those creatures know what that means, what anything means. Wait a minute, something's happening. A humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Oh, Lord, they're turning into flames. Oh, the whole field's caught up by the woods, the barns, the gas tanks for the automobiles spreading everywhere. It's coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast from Grover's Mill. Evidently, there's some difficulty with our field transmission. However, we will return to that point at the earliest opportunity. In the meantime, we have a late bulletin from San Diego, California. Professor Indelkoffer, speaking at a dinner of the California Astronomical Society, expressed the opinion that the explosions on Mars are undoubtedly nothing more than severe volcanic disturbances on the surface of the planet. We continue now with our piano interlude.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been handed a message that came in from Grover's Mill by telephone. Just one moment, please. At least 40 people, including 6 state troopers, lie dead in a field east of the village of Grover's Mill, their bodies burned and distorted beyond all possible recognition. The next voice you hear will be that of Brigadier General Montgomery Smith, commander of the state militia at Trenton, New Jersey.
I have been requested by the governor of New Jersey to place the counties of Mercer and Middlesex as far west as Princeton and east to Jamesburg under martial law. No one will be permitted to enter this area except by special pass issued by state or military authorities. 4 companies of state militia are proceeding from Trenton to Grover's Mill and will aid in the evacuation of homes within the range of military operations. Thank you.
You have just been listening to General Montgomery Smith, commanding the state militia at Trenton. In the meantime, further details of the catastrophe at Grover's Mill are coming in. The strange creatures, after unleashing their deadly assault, crawled back in their pit and made no attempt to prevent the efforts of the firemen to recover the bodies and extinguish the fire. The combined fire departments of Mercer County are fighting the flames which menace the entire countryside. We have been unable to establish any contact with our mobile unit at Grover's Mill, but we hope to be able to return you there at the earliest possible moment. In the meantime, we take you to... Just one moment, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just been informed that we have finally established communication with an eyewitness of the tragedy. Professor Pearson has been located at a farmhouse near Grover's Mill, where he has established an emergency observation post. As a scientist, he will give you his explanation of the calamity. The next voice you hear will be that of Professor Pearson, brought to you by direct wire. Professor Pearson.
Of the creatures in the rocket cylinder at Grover's Mill, I can give you no authoritative information, either as to their nature, their origin, or their purposes here on Earth. Of their destructive instrument, I might venture some conjectural explanation. For want of a better term, I shall refer to the mysterious weapon as a heat ray. It's all too evident that these creatures have scientific knowledge far in advance of our own. It's my guess that in some way they are able to generate an intense heat in a chamber of practically absolute non-conductivity. This intense heat they project in a parallel beam against any object they choose by means of a polished parabolic mirror of unknown composition, much as the mirror of a lighthouse projects a beam of light. That is my conjecture of the origin of the heat ray.
Thank you, Professor Pearson. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a bulletin from Trenton. It is a brief statement informing us that the charred body of Carl Phillips has been identified in a Trenton hospital. Now, here's another bulletin from Washington, D.C. the Office of the Director of the National Red Cross reports 10 units of Red Cross emergency workers have been assigned to the headquarters of the state militia, stationed outside of Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Here's a bulletin from State Police, Princeton Junction. The fires at Grover's Mill and vicinity are now under control. Scouts report all quiet in the pit, and there is no sign of life appearing from the mouth of the cylinder. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special statement from Mr. Harry McDonald, Vice President in charge of operations.
We have received a request from the state militia of Trenton to place at their disposal our entire broadcasting facilities. In view of the gravity of the situation, and believing that radio has a responsibility to serve in the public interest at all times, we are turning over our facilities to the state militia at Trenton.
We take you now to the field headquarters of the state militia near Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
This is Captain Lansing of the Signal Corps, attached to the state militia, now engaged in military operations in the vicinity of Grover's Mill. Situation arising from the reported presence of certain individuals of unidentified nature is now under complete control. The cylindrical object, which lies in a pit directly below our position, surrounded on all sides by 8 battalions of infantry, without heavy field pieces, but adequately armed with rifles and machine guns. All cause for alarm, if such cause ever existed, is now entirely unjustified. Things, whatever they are, do not even venture to poke their heads above the pit. I can see their hiding place plainly in the glare of the searchlights here. With all their reported resources, these creatures can scarcely stand up against heavy machine gun fire. Anyway, it's an interesting outing for the troops. I can make out their khaki uniforms crossing back and forth in front of the lights. Looks almost like a real war. There appears to be some slight smoke in the woods bordering the Millstone River, probably fire started by campers. Well, we ought to see some action soon. One of the companies is deploying on the left flank. A quick thrust and it'll all be over. Now, wait a minute. I see something on top of the cylinder. No, it's nothing but a shadow. Now the troops are on the edge of the Wilmot Farm. 7,000 armed men closing in on an old metal tube. A tub, rather. Well, wait, that wasn't a shadow. It's something moving. Solid metal, kind of a shield-like affair rising up out of the cylinder. It's going higher and higher. What? It's standing on legs, actually rearing up on a sort of metal framework. Now it's reaching above the trees and the searchlights are on it. Hold on.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars. The battle which took place tonight at Grover Mills has ended in one of the most startling defeats ever suffered by an army in modern times. 7,000 men armed with rifles and machine guns pitted against the single fighting machine of the invaders from Mars. 120 known survivors. The rest strewn over the battle area from Grover's Mill to Plainsboro, crushed and trampled to death under the metal feet of the monster, or burned to cinders by its heat ray. The monster is now in control of the middle section of New Jersey and has effectively cut the state through its center. Communication lines are down from Pennsylvania to the Atlantic Ocean. Railroad tracks are torn and service from New York to Philadelphia discontinued, except routing some of the trains through Allerton and Phoenixville. Highways to the north, south, and west are clogged with frantic human traffic. Police and army reserves are unable to control the mad flight. By morning, the fugitives will have swelled Philadelphia, Camden, and Trenton. It is estimated to twice their normal population. Martial law prevails throughout New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania. At this time, we take you to Washington for a special broadcast on the national emergency. The Secretary of the Interior.
Citizens of the nation, I shall not try to conceal the gravity of the situation that confronts the country, nor the concern of your government in protecting the lives and property of its people. However, I wish to impress upon you, private citizens and public officials, all of you, the urgent need of calm and resourceful action. Fortunately, this formidable enemy
is still confined to a comparatively small area. And we may place our faith in the military forces to keep them there. In the meantime, placing our faith in God, we must continue the performance of our duties, each and every one of us, so that we may confront this destructive adversary with a nation united, courageous, and consecrated to the preservation of human supremacy on this earth. I thank you.
You have just heard the Secretary of the Interior speaking from Washington. Bulletins too numerous to read are piling up in the studio here. We're informed that the central portion of New Jersey is blacked out from radio communication due to the effect of the heat ray upon power lines and electrical equipment. Here's a special bulletin in New York. Cables have been received from English, French, and German scientific bodies offering assistance. Astronomers report continued gas outbursts at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The majority voiced the opinion that the enemy will be reinforced by additional rocket machines. There have been several attempts made to locate Professor Pearson of Princeton, who has observed Martians at close range. It is feared he was lost in the recent battle. Langham Field, Virginia. Scouting planes report 3 Martian machines visible above treetops, moving north toward Somerville with population fleeing ahead of them. The heat ray is not in use, although advancing at express train speed, invaders pick their way carefully. They seem to be making a conscious effort to avoid destruction of cities and countryside. However, they stop to uproot power lines, bridges, and railroad tracks. Their apparent objective is to crush resistance, paralyze communication, and disorganize human society. Here is a bulletin from Basking Ridge, New Jersey. Coon hunters have stumbled on a second cylinder similar to the first, embedded in the Great Swamp 20 miles south of Morristown. Army field pieces are proceeding from Newark to blow up the second invading unit before the cylinder can be opened and the fighting machine rigged. They're taking up a position in the foothills of Watchung Mountain. Another bulletin from Langham Field, Virginia. Scouting planes report enemy machines, now 3 in number, increasing speed northward, kicking over houses and trees in their evident haste to form a conjunction with their allies south of Morristown. Machines also sighted by telephone operator east of Middlesex within 10 miles of Plainfield. Here's a bulletin from Winston Field, Long Island. A fleet of Army bombers carrying heavy explosives flying north in pursuit of enemy. Scouting planes act as guides. They keep the speeding enemy in sight. Just a moment, please, ladies and gentlemen. We've run special wires to the artillery line and adjacent villages to give you direct reports from the zone of the advancing enemy. First, we take you to the battery of the 22nd Field Artillery, located in the Watchung Mountains.
Range 32 meters.
32 meters.
Projection 39 degrees.
39 degrees.
Fire.
140 yards to the right, sir.
Shift range 31 meters.
31 meters.
Projection 37 degrees.
37 degrees.
Fire.
Hit, sir. Got the tripod of one of them. That's off. The others are trying to repair it.
Quick, get the range. Shift 30 meters.
30 meters.
Projection 27 degrees.
27 degrees.
Fire.
Can't see the tail land, sir. Letting off a smoke.
What is it?
Black smoke, sir. Moving this way. Lying close to the ground. Moving fast.
Put on gas mask. Get ready to fire. Shift to 24 meters.
24 meters.
Projection 24 degrees.
24 degrees.
Fire.
Still can't see, sir. Smoke's coming nearer. Get the range. 23 meters.
23 meters.
23 meters. Projection 22 degrees. 22 degrees.
Army bombing plane B-843 off Bayonne, New Jersey. Lieutenant Bolt, commanding 8 bombers,
reporting to Commander Fairfax, Langham Field. This is Vogt reporting to Commander Fairfax, Langham Field. Enemy tripod machines now in sight. Reinforced by 3 machines from the Morristown cylinder. 6 altogether. 1 machine partially crippled. Believed hit by shell from Army gun in Watchung Mountains. Guns now appear silent. A heavy black fog hanging close to the earth of extreme density, nature unknown. No sign of heat ray. Enemy now turns east, crossing Passaic River into the Jersey marshes. Another straddles the Pulaski Skyway. Evident objective is New York City. They're pushing down a high-tension power station. Machines are close together now, and we're ready to attack. Planes circling, ready to strike. A 1,000 yards, and we'll be over the first. $800 yards. $600. $400. $200. There they go. The giant arm raised. Green flash. They're spraying us with flame. 2,000 feet. Engines are giving out. No chance to release bombs. Only one thing left. Drop on them, plane and all. We're diving on the first one. Now the engine's gone. 8.
This is Bayonne, New Jersey, calling Langham Field. This is Bayonne, New Jersey, calling Langham Field. Come in, please.
Langham Field. Go ahead.
8 Army bombers in engagement with enemy tripod machines over Jersey Flats. Engines incapacitated by heat ray. All crashed. 1 enemy machine destroyed. Enemy now discharging heavy black smoke in direction of...
This is Newark, New Jersey. This is Newark, New Jersey. Warning. Poisonous black smoke pouring in from Jersey marshes. Reaches South Street. Gas masks useless. Urge population to move into open spaces. Automobiles use routes 7, 23, 24. Avoid congested areas. Smoke now spreading over Raymond Boulevard.
2X2L calling CQ, 2X2L calling CQ, 2X2L calling 8X3R. Come in, please.
This is 8X3R coming back at 2X2L.
How's reception? How's reception? K, please. Where are you, 8X3R? What's the matter? Where are you?
I'm speaking from the roof of Broadcasting Building. I'm speaking from the roof of Broadcasting Building, New York City. The bells you hear are ringing to warn the people to evacuate the city as Martians approach. Estimated in the last 2 hours, 3 million people have moved out along the roads to the north. Hutchison River Parkway is still kept open for motor traffic. Avoid bridges to Long Island, hopelessly jammed. All communication with Jersey Shore closed 10 minutes ago. No more defenses. Our army is wiped out. Artillery, Air Force, everything wiped out. This may be the last broadcast. We'll stay here to the end. People are holding service here below us in the cathedral. Now I look down the harbor, all manner of boats, overloaded with fleeing population pulling out from docks. Streets are all jammed. Noise and crowds like New Year's Eve in city. Wait a minute. The enemy's now in sight above the Palisades. Five great machines. First one is
crossing the river. I can see it from here, wading the Hudson like a man wading through a brook. A bulletin is handed me. Martian cylinders are falling all over the country. One outside of Buffalo, one in Chicago, St. Louis. Seem to be timed and spaced. Now the first machine reaches the shore. He stands watching, looking over the city. Steel Cowlish head is even with the skyscrapers. He waits for the others. They rise like a line of new towers on the city's west side. Now they're lifting their metal hands. This is the end now. Smoke comes out, black smoke drifting over the city. People in the street see it now. They're running toward the East River, thousands of them, dropping in like rats. Now the smoke's spreading faster. It's reached Times Square. People are trying to run away from it, but it's no use. They're falling like flies. Now the smoke's crossing 6th Avenue. 5th Avenue. 100 yards away. It's 50 feet.
Calling CQ. 2X2L calling CQ. 2X2L calling CQ, New York. Isn't there anyone on the air? Isn't there anyone on the air? Isn't there anyone? 2X2L.
You are listening to a CBS presentation of Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air in an original dramatization of The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. The performance will continue after a brief intermission. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System. The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, starring Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air.
As I set down these notes on paper, I'm obsessed by the thought that I may be the last living man on Earth. I've been hiding in this empty house near Grover's Mill, a small island of daylight cut off by the black smoke from the rest of the world. All that happened before the arrival of these monstrous creatures in the world now seems part of another life. A life that has no continuity with the present. Furtive existence with a lonely derelict who pencils these words on the back of some astronomical notes bearing the signature of Richard Pearson. I look down at my blackened hand and I try to connect them with a professor who lives at Princeton and who, on the night of October 20th, glimpsed through his telescope an orange splash of light on a distant planet. My wife, my colleagues, my students, my books, my observatory, my world. Where are they? Did they ever exist? Am I Richard Pearson? What day is it? Do days exist without calendars? Does time pass when there are no human hands left to wind the clocks?
Writing down my daily life, I tell myself I shall preserve human history between the dark covers of this little book that was meant to record the movements of the stars. But to write, I must live, and to live, I must eat. Find moldy bread in the kitchen and an orange not too spoiled to swallow. Keep watch at the window. Time to time, I catch sight of a Martian above the black smoke. Smoke still holds the house in its black coil, but at length there's a hissing sound, and suddenly I see a Martian mounted on his machine, spraying the air with a jet of steam as if to dissipate the smoke. I watch in a corner as his huge metal legs nearly brush against the house. Exhausted by terror, I fall asleep. Morning. Morning. Sun streams in the window. Black cloud of gas is lifted, and the scorched meadows to the north look as though a black snowstorm had passed over them. I venture from the house. I make my way to a road, no traffic. Here and there, a wrecked car, baggage overturned, a blackened skeleton. Push on north. For some reason, I feel safer trailing these monsters than running away from them. And I keep a careful watch. I've seen the Martians feed. Should one of their machines appear over the top of trees, I'm ready to fling myself flat on the earth. Come to a chestnut tree. October. Chestnuts are ripe. Fill my pockets. Let's keep alive. 2 days I wander in a vague northerly direction through a desolate world. Finally, I noticed a living creature. A small red squirrel in a beech tree. I stare at him and wonder. He stares back at me. I believe at that moment the animal and I shared the same emotion. The joy of finding another living being. Push on north. I find dead cows in a brackish field, and beyond the charred ruins of a dairy and a silo, remain standing guard over the wasteland like a lighthouse. Deserted by the sea. Astride the silo perches a weathercock. The arrow points north. North. Next day, I come to a city. City vaguely familiar in its contours, yet its buildings strangely dwarfed and leveled off as if a giant had sliced off its highest towers with a capricious sweep of his hand. Reached the outskirts, I found Newark. Newark, undemolished but humbled by some whim of the advancing Martians. Presently, with an odd feeling of being watched, I caught sight of something crouching in a doorway. I made a step towards it. Rose up and became a man. A man armed with a large knife.
Stop! Where did you come from?
I come from many places. A long time ago, from Princeton.
Princeton, huh? That's near Grover's Mill.
Yes.
Grover's Mill. There's no food here. This is my country. All this end of town down the river. There's only food for one. Which way are you going?
I don't know. I guess I'm looking for people.
Hey, what was that? You hear something just then?
No. Only a bird. A live bird.
Yeah. You get to know that birds have shadows these days. Say, we're in the open here. Let's crawl in this doorway here and talk.
Have you seen any Martians?
No. They're going over to New York. Night, the sky's alive with their lights, just as if people were still living in it. By daylight, you can't see them. 5 days ago, a couple of them carried something big across the flats from the airport. I think they're learning how to fly.
Fly?
Yeah, fly.
Then it's all over with humanity.
Stranger, there's still you and I. 2 of us left.
They got themselves in solid. They wrecked the greatest country in the world. Those green stars, they're probably falling somewhere every night. They've only lost one machine. There isn't anything to do. We're done. We're licked.
Where were you? You're in a uniform.
Yeah, what's left of it. I was in the militia. National Guard. That's good. There wasn't any war. Any more than there's war between men and ants.
Yes, but we're eatable ants. I found that out. What'll they do to us?
I filled it all out. Right now, we're caught as we're wanted. The Martian only has to go a few miles to get a crowd on the run. But they won't keep on doing that. They'll begin catching us systematic, like keeping the best and storing us in cages and things. They haven't begun on us yet.
Not begun?
Not begun. All that's happened so far is because we don't have sense enough to keep quiet. Bothering them with guns and such stuff and losing our heads and rushing off in crowds. No. Instead of our rushing around blind, we got to fix ourselves up. Fix ourselves up according to the way things are now. Cities, nations, civilization, progress.
Yes, but if that's so, what is there to live for?
Well, there won't be any more concerts for 1,000,000 years or so, and no nice little dinners at restaurants. If it's amusement you're after, I guess the game's up.
What is there left?
Life, that's what. I want to live. Yeah, and so do you. We're not going to be exterminated. And I don't mean to be caught either. Tamed and fattened and bred like an ox.
What are you going to do?
I'm going on. Right under their feet. I got a plan. We men as men, we're finished. We don't know enough. We got to learn plenty before we got a chance. We've got to live and keep free while we learn, see? I've thought it all out, see?
Well, tell me the rest.
Well, it isn't all of us that are made for wild beasts. That's what it got to. That's what it got to be. That's why I watched you. Watched you. All those little office workers that used to live in these houses. They be no good. They haven't any stuff in them. They run off to work. I've seen hundreds of them running to catch their commuter's train in the morning, afraid they could can if they didn't. Running back at night, afraid they wouldn't be in time for dinner. Lives insured and a little invested in case of accident. Yeah, and on Sundays, worried about the hereafter. The Martians, they'll be a godsend for those guys. Nice roomy cages, good food, careful breeding, no worries. Yeah, after a week or so of chasing around the fields on empty stomachs, they'll come and be glad to be caught.
You've thought it all out, haven't you?
Sure, you bet I have. That isn't all. These Martians are going to make pets of them. Train them to do tricks. Who knows? Get sentimental over the pet boy who grew up and had to be killed. Yeah. And some, maybe, they'll train to hunt us.
Oh, no, it's impossible.
Yes, they will. There's men who do it gladly. One of them never suggested me, by...
Meantime, you and I and others like us, where are we to live when the Martians own the Earth?
I got it all figured out. We'll live underground. I've been thinking about the sewers. Under New York, there are miles and miles of them. The main ones, they're big enough for anybody. And there's cellars, vaults, underground storerooms, railway tunnels, subways. You begin to see, huh? We'll get a bunch of strong men together. No weakness. That rubbish, out.
As you meant me to go.
All right. Give you a chance, didn't I?
Won't quarrel about that. Go on.
Well, we got to make safe places for us to stay in, see? Get all the books we can. Science books. That's where men like you come in, see? We raid the museums. We'll even spy on the Martians. May not be so much we have to learn before... Just imagine this. 4 or 5 of their own fighting machines suddenly start off. Heat rays right and left. Not a Martian in them. Not a Martian in them, see? But men. Men who've learned the way how. May even be in our time. Gee. Imagine having one of them lovely things with a heat ray wide and free. We'd turn it on Martians. We'd turn it on men. We'd bring everybody down on their knees.
That's your plan.
You, me, more. We'd own the world.
I see.
Hey. Hey, what's the matter? Where are you going?
Not to your world. Bye, stranger. Well, after parting with the artilleryman, I came at last to the Holland Tunnel, entered that silent tube, anxious to know the fate of the great city on the other side of the Hudson. Cautiously, I came out of the tunnel and made my way up Canal Street. Reached 14th Street, and there again were black powder and several bodies and an evil, ominous smell from the gratings of the cellars of some of the houses. I wandered up through the 30s and 40s, stood alone on Times Square, caught sight of a lean dog running down 7th Avenue with a piece of dark brown meat in his jaws and a pack of starving mongrels at his heels. Made a wide circle around me as though he feared I might prove a fresh competitor. Walked up Broadway in the direction of that strange powder, past silent shop windows, displaying their mute wares to empty sidewalks. Past the Capitol Theater, silent, dark. Past a shooting gallery where a row of empty guns faced an arrested line of wooden ducks. Near Columbus Circle, I noticed models of 1939 motor cars in the showrooms facing empty streets. Over the top of the General Motors building, I watched a flock of black birds circling in the sky. Hurried on. Suddenly, I caught sight of the hood of a Martian machine, standing somewhere in Central Park, gleaming in the late afternoon sun. An insane idea. I rushed recklessly across Columbus Circle and into the park. I climbed a small hill above the pond at 60th Street, and from there I could see, standing in a silent row along the mall, 19 of those great metal titans, their cowls empty, their steel arms hanging listlessly by their sides. I looked in vain for the monsters that inhabit those machines. Suddenly, my eyes were attracted to the immense flock of black birds that hovered directly below me. They circled to the ground. And there before my eyes, stark and silent, lay the Martians with the hungry birds pecking and tearing brown shreds of flesh from their dead bodies. Later, when their bodies were examined in laboratories, it was found that they were killed by the putrefactive and disease bacteria against which their systems were unprepared. Slain, after all, man's defenses had failed by the humblest thing that God, His wisdom, has put upon this earth. Before the cylinder fell, there was a general persuasion that through all the deep of space, no life existed beyond the petty surface of our minute sphere. Now we see further. Dim and wonderful is the vision I've conjured up in my mind of life spreading slowly from this little seedbed of the solar system throughout the inanimate vastnesses of sidereal space. But a remote dream, maybe. Maybe that the destruction of the Martians is only a reprieve to them and not to us. The future ordained, perhaps. Strange it now seems to sit in my peaceful study at Princeton, writing down this last chapter of the record, begun at a deserted farm in Grover's Mill. Strange to watch children playing in the streets. Strange to see young people strolling on the green where the new spring grass heals the last black scars of a bruised earth. Strange to watch the sightseers enter the museum where the dissembled parts of a Martian machine are kept on public view. Strange when I recall the time when I first saw it. Bright, clean cut, hard, and silent under the dawn of that last great day. This is Orson Welles, ladies and gentlemen. Out of character,
to assure you that the War of the Worlds has no further significance than as the holiday offering it was intended to be. The Mercury Theater's own radio version of dressing up in a sheet and jumping out of a bush and saying boo. Starting now, we couldn't soap all your windows and seal all your garden gates. By tomorrow night, so we did the best next thing. We annihilated the world before your very ears and utterly destroyed the CBS. You will be relieved, I hope, to learn that we didn't mean it, and that both institutions are still open for business. So goodbye, everybody, and remember, please, for the next day or so, the terrible lesson you learned tonight. That grinning, glowing, globular invader of your living room is an inhabitant of the pumpkin patch, and if your doorbell rings and nobody's there, that was no Martian, it's Halloween.
Tonight, the Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations coast to coast has brought you The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, the 17th in its weekly series of dramatic broadcasts featuring Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the air. Next week, we present a dramatization of 3 famous short stories. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
And so ends the 1938 version of War of the Worlds. The night radio scared America. A performance so convincing, it became legend and a warning. Orson Welles didn't just tell a story, he conducted a social experiment. He proved that technology could bypass logic and reach straight into our emotions. Ha ha ha! Is that going on today? I say yes. That night in 1938, the machine intelligence wasn't silicon, it was human imagination, amplified by radio waves. Today, our world is filled with digital voices, synthetic media, and algorithms that can mimic truth just as convincingly, more convincingly when combined with AI. AI-generated images, AI-generated video that gets better every day and worse. Maybe War of the Worlds wasn't just about Martians. I think it was about us, our fear, our trust in the media, our willingness to believe what sounds official, and even our unwillingness to listen to certain media. Listening only to media that we agree with. We willingly insert ourselves into our own echo chambers, often these days, and absorb only the kind of media that we find agreeable. That which we find distasteful, we reject or don't trust because we have been conditioned not to. Organically and through a systemic attack, I think, on our very consciousness. So as we close tonight's broadcast, remember, technology keeps evolving, but human nature doesn't change much, whether it's 1938 or 2025. The real invasion might not come from Mars, or it might, but the machines we build to tell our stories might be where the actual invasion comes from. That is something we touched on just yesterday on Maverick News, talking about AI agents, artificial intelligence agents or systems, various versions of AI becoming the invaders which don't recognize borders because they are digital. And because they are able to circumvent nation-state laws, nation-state borders, and find their way right into our homes, into our computers, into our laptops, our cell phones, and through Neuralink chip implants and being jacked into the matrix, maybe directly, very soon, into our minds, if that isn't happening already. It's a very real thing. Every day we take another step closer to what some people would say is transhumanism. Technology, the medium, is the message. Radio was the medium of the day, the cutting edge medium of the day then. Today it's AI, internet, social media. The hardware, the software, the content integrated with our minds. A brave new world. An exciting time, a horrifying time. Tonight we brought you an alarming version or vision of the future where we could be invaded. Who knows where the invasion might come from? But as Orson Welles said, this was fiction, science fiction. Yesterday's science fiction is becoming today's maybe science reality. Either organic or synthetic, artificial or real. The line is blurred every single day. All I can say is it's Halloween. So let's lighten up just a little bit. And I can tell you, too, I will update this just before we sign off tonight. Let me show you this. Might give you just a glimmer of hope if you're a Canadian. It is now, was 3-0 for the Dodgers, now 3-1. Blue Jays fought back, got one up on the board. So the World Series continues. And with that, I will leave you with two things tonight to close off the program. First, a Halloween suitable tune from Maverick and the News Brothers, Frank and Carr. And following that, a surprise special treat that Linda provided, created, sent, and has been insisting that I share with you. So there's a little stinger at the end of tonight's Maverick and the News Brothers musical extra. So don't go away. You're not going to want to miss this one, especially the people in the Haters channel. They're going to love it. See y'all tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
Out of the junkyard, piece by piece, welded together, can't find no peace. Hood from a Chevy, tail from a Ford, rising like a demon that you can't ignore. Chrome from the past, rust in its veins, blowing off rats, now it's going insane. Wheels spin wild, headlights gleam, it's alive, it's a twisted metal dream. When the lightning strikes and the engines roar, you know it's coming back for more. A beast of bolts with a heart of steel. Frank and Carr, you're too real. Frank and Carr turn through the night, stitched together, ready for the fight. Dark and twisted, you don't care with its horn. It's more than metal, it's something more. A creature rolling, craving war. No one knows where it's from or why, but breaking car will make you cry. Breaking car, tearing through the night, stitched together, ready for the fight. Dark and twisted, you don't care, with a haunted soul and a wicked glare. Breaking car, you're coming alive. Run for your life, you won't survive. So if you see those headlights bright, don't stop running, don't trust the lights. Breaking cars out on the prowl. It's alive, it's on the prowl now. Growl.
Pleasant dreams catch you on the flip side.
He started the nug.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.